Welcome to Corporate Confessions. If we haven't met already, my name is Blake Eastman and I'm the founder of the Nonverbal Group, a behavioral research and education company that is focused on increasing behavioral awareness and teaching higher level communication and social skills. And a big part of that journey has been a lot of corporate consulting, which consisted of a lot of wonderful, crazy, inspiring, frustrating, confusing, and every single spectrum of emotion you can probably experience. So, in this video, I'm going to tell you a story about an engagement that I had with a company that had certain problems with how they approach organizational self-development and give you some key insights from that experience. So it started, this must have been like 10 years ago when I was teaching this class called Body Language Explained. I hate the term body language now, but I used to teach a class called it. And somebody came after class and was like, listen, I really think that my boss would love what you're doing. We have a team. We do self-development initiatives every 4 to 6 weeks. I think you would love it. So she put me in touch with him. We went back and forth. And he basically, I really love this setup. What they would do is they would focus on a specific area of development. Before they work with me, they focused on active listening for like 4 to 6 weeks. And they have these self-development sprints. And I was doing one on behavioral awareness and how to be more aware of your own and other people's behavior. So we go back and forth. And usually what happens is you go into this company's, you do like one workshop and then they want you for more. But he just off the get-go is like, nope, let's do it every week. I want you to put together a whole program. He was like really into it. And I get on the phone with him. I was like, this is like the dream client. Like he's like setting up the structure exactly how I want it. He's super motivated. Like this is going to be incredible. So on my first day there, I go to the office, I go to like a conference room and I'm there around 10 minutes early. And as I get there, so one person comes in, one of the people that are there for the team, it's a group of like 10 people. And he comes in and he looks at me, he's like, oh, you the body language guy? And I was like, yeah, I'm here for teach you behavioral awareness. He's like, okay. So he just didn't strike me as like enthusiastic or anything. He was just like, whatever. Next person in, next person, soon like 6 people are in the room. They start making subtle jokes about the last presentation. So basically they worked on active listening before and they were like making jokes with each other and with me about like, we're going to really actively listen to what you're having to say with like a slight condescending tone to it. So I was like laughing, but I was like, this is sort of weird if they did that training. It's kind of odd. And then essentially what happens is the guy who's actually speaking or the guy who actually hired me comes in and he gives like a speech. So he starts going into, all right, guys, like, you know, Blake Eastman sort of like reads the bio off my webpage and like frames me up really well. And I start talking and in the first like 10 or 15 minutes, it was sort of, it was quite interesting because like you had 2 people that were just like gung-ho self-development style where they were just like listening to every single word that I said, really taking notes. One of them was the person who actually hired me. And then the rest of the people were just like, they're just not feeling it. And this is sort of something that I'm used to in corporate training. Like the standard of corporate training and development is so bad that usually when you go in, people are like hesitant and they're almost like, you know, prove yourself to me and so on and so forth. So after 20 minutes, everybody starts to get engaged. They start to really like the presentation. Everybody gets on board. I do all these things. It works out great. So that was the first presentation. I did a series of 6 of these. After the first one, I pulled over the guy who hired me. I said, and you know, he comes over and that was amazing. I enjoyed it. This was so cool. Thank you so much. And I was like, would you be open to having a conversation? I said to him. I don't think I said that to him. At that time, I was a little bit more brash. I was like, we need to talk. So we sat down and I said, like, listen, your team doesn't seem to be anywhere near as motivated as you do for these self sort of development initiatives. And I was asking him, I was like, what structures do you have in place? Like, why are they doing this? Are they going to get a raise? Is there a bone of it? Like, what is it? He's like, no, I just believe in self-development and we should all do that and so on and so forth. And I was like, you know, I guarantee that 70% of them think that for the most part, the majority of this is just like a waste of time, right? And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, you really need to have a discussion with the team. And he sort of asked me, he was like, will you help facilitate that? And I was like, yeah, like we can have, if you're open to it, we can do it. So on my next discussion, on our next meeting, I basically turned the tables and I was like, guys, you know, you're doing a lot of self-development work, you're doing all this stuff. But I want to make sure that it's in alignment with what you guys want. And everybody sort of, we created like a space, or we created a context where I got the person who hired me to just sort of look at everyone and be like, no, honestly, I want feedback. I know that I'm interested in self-development. And it was just like sort of weird moment where everybody was like, yeah, well, like we feel like these things are just like pushed down our throat. Like sometimes we don't want to do this. It takes a lot of extra effort. It takes a lot of extra time. It's like, and they went on and on and on. And it seemed sort of crazy that like 90% of the people seemed quite frustrated, and they felt amazing after I had this whole conversation with everybody, because they now were like, wow, it felt good to get that off our chest. And he was completely shocked. Like I remember his face, like sitting there and like not in a rude way either. He was shocked in a, like, I can't believe that people don't want to be massively involved in self-development. This doesn't make sense. And you know, this is something I have seen over and over and over in corporate training and corporate development. There's two key takeaways that I want you to understand. So first, the effectiveness of any development initiative in an organization is dependent on the motivation and alignment of the people receiving the training. If you're doing sales training and the sales team is going to get a very small bump in take home, why would they care about the training? It is a very simple realization, but I see so many companies and teams make this mistake over and over again. Training and initiatives should have multiple incentives that are stated up front. There is a big difference between we're going to do this behavioral training versus we're going to do this training to develop you as a person. We want your time at this organization to be a period of self-growth, and you will learn a series of skill sets that you can use throughout your entire life. As a company, we really want to make your work environment as comfortable, inclusive, and powerful as possible. We believe this training can help us do that. Also, if we get more effective and better as a team, our bonus structure can look a lot different this year or you can just make more money. So let's really take this training and dive in seriously. When the incentives are laid out with passion, the participants show up excited and ready to integrate the information. I'm telling you, 98% of companies don't do this, and they really need to, because without it, you're just wasting time and money. A lot of people, they're not seeing this as an opportunity to get better. They're like, oh, another damn corporate training again. I can't believe that I have to do another one of these things. Like, that is the culture in so many companies, even if they're not facially showing it. I've done so much training over the years, and you can see when companies burn people out with that. And it's really important to get people in alignment. I really believe that companies should be spending more money on fewer engagements instead of just doing like these big initiatives every month where they bring in a speaker who talks and the information goes in one ear and out the other ear. Lesson 2, frame the training for them. If you are a facilitator or trainer of any kind, you may not have the luxury of having the company create that alignment. In fact, you most certainly won't in the majority of the training you do. So it's your responsibility as a facilitator or a vessel of transformation, or whatever you want to call yourself, to both motivate and frame your training as something that is going to make a difference in the lives of your participants. I have been in front of very unmotivated corporate clients and have literally said, to be 100% honest, I care very little about your company right now. All I really care about is you. My goal is to turn all of you into the best presenters I possibly can over the next 3 days. Then I make a case for the power of improving presentation skills. They are then 100% on board and excited to learn these skills. And now the company, who is my actual client, can benefit from having these much more effective employees. Nobody wants to do another corporate training seminar, but most people do want to improve their lives. Do not forget that. Okay, so I hope this story was helpful and those points were helpful. I could probably create another 10 points, but I'll save that for another Corporate Confessions. If any of this was helpful, or if you relate to it in any way, please comment below. If you haven't already, make sure you sign up for our newsletter, The Behavioral List. I release 3 videos each week, do live workshops, research studies, tell a lot of stories, and that email goes out every Monday and keeps you updated with everything that is going on at the Nonverbal Group. Thank you so much for listening, and Shadow and Bone was a pretty good show on Netflix. I'm a big fan of epic fantasies, and I enjoyed it. That's about it.